Brace yourselves, folks, because today we're diving into a story that sounds like something out of a blockbuster action movie, only it's all too real. Imagine the roaring thunder of jets, the flash of missiles lighting up the sky, and a tense standoff with no easy way out. Yes, we're talking about the latest U.S. strikes in Yemen, the largest military operation in the Middle East during President Donald Trump's second term. Buckle up and make sure your popcorn's ready, because this story has more twists and turns than a carnival ride. We begin with the crucial question on everyone's mind. How did we get here? Since 2015, Yemen has been entangled in a messy civil war. Various external powers got involved, but the plot thickened even more when Houthi forces, allegedly backed by Iran, began targeting ships in the Red Sea, claiming solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. Suddenly, the U.S. decided enough was enough, cued the dramatic music as warplanes, and naval vessels started their engines. Now the skies over Yemen seem perpetually lit by something far more ominous than fireworks. Here's your first big taste of what's happening on the ground. Let's take a look at an on-the-scene report. Strap in, this clip goes straight into the chaos.
Yes, U.S. airstrikes continue in Yemen as Ansarullah retaliates amid escalating conflict. In the early hours of today, U.S. warplanes launched a series of airstrikes targeting various areas in northern Yemen, indicating that at least 17 airstrikes have been conducted, according to media affiliated with Ansarullah. The airstrikes, including 7 air raids on the outskirts of Saada, conducted also in 2 attack waves, along with the 3 airstrikes on Salim in Al-Kitaf, and also other 2 air raids on Harf Sufyan in Amran province, bordering Saada. Additionally, U.S. fighter jets carried out also 5 airstrikes late last night in 2 waves, targeting Sahar district west of Saada.
Wow, right? 17 strikes, multiple waves of attacks, and a whole mix of targets in the northern region of Yemen. That's not some casual skirmish. It's a heavy-handed show of force. Listening to that, you can practically feel the tension in the air. The Houthis, often referred to by their official name, Ansar Allah, are no strangers to conflict. And the U.S. is making it crystal clear that it wants to end the Houthi attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea. But that's only part of the puzzle. It's almost like someone saying, hey, stop attacking ships. And the Houthis going, well, stop when you stop attacking us. A classic standoff scenario where each side thinks it's the other's move. If you're feeling a bit whiplashed by the back and forth, don't worry, you're not alone. Now let's shift gears for a second and talk about what the Houthis themselves are doing. Because if you thought they were just sitting back, oh boy, do we have news for you. In the next clip, we'll hear how the Houthi side claims they're hitting not just US, but also targeting Israel with drones. It sounds like a dramatic escalation, so hold on to your seats.
So it has launched a drone attack on Tel Aviv, achieving its direct attack, according to Syria, and emphasized that their armed forces will remain determined to continue also their embargo on the Israeli ships in the declared maritime zones, and also to strike Israeli territories until Tel Aviv left its siege and also end its aggression on Gaza.
Mohammed, it wasn't that long ago that you and our teams were reporting extensively on the crisis that was hitting Yemen during the conflict there just many months ago.
That's right, drone attacks, embargo threats, and vows to keep striking until Tel Aviv lifts its siege and aggression. Whether you see this as a bold stand or a reckless move, there's no denying it raises the stakes in an already combustible region. The Houthis are basically saying, if you think we're bluffing, we're going to show you we're dead serious. Meanwhile, American planes and ships are circling, locked and loaded. But let's not forget the real cost behind these headlines. Millions of Yemenis remain caught in the crossfire, dealing with poverty, famine, and limited humanitarian aid. It's like watching 2 giant boulders crash together while countless innocents are stuck in between. Still, the Houthis argue that they're standing with Gaza's plight. From their perspective, the region is all one giant battlefield, and solidarity with Palestine is worth the extra hardship. Now, if you're thinking, wait, how is the U.S. responding beyond these airstrikes? We've got you covered. One broadcast from another network paints the broad strokes of the American rationale. They want to show overwhelming force. They want to protect commercial lanes, and they want to send a message to Iran. Because, let's be honest, anytime something happens in Yemen, you can bet that Washington is also side-eyeing Tehran. Let's check that angle from a second source. Listen closely to how they describe the American strikes, and maybe see if you can feel that underlying tension about Iran's role too.
The United States and the Houthi rebels remain locked in a cycle of retaliatory strikes amidst the tit-for-tat attacks. Iran is flexing its military muscles with a new missile city. So what's next? Our next report gets you the details.
The U.S. is sharpening its attack on Yemen. Its military unleashing superior firepower, missiles piercing the night with a deafening roar. At least 17 strikes reported in Sada and Amran. The Houthis' Ansarullah website said the aggressive air raids caused material damage to citizens' property, but gave no details of casualties.
The words superior firepower, missiles piercing the night, and deafening roar pretty much sum it up. It's a spectacle that says, we're here, and we mean business. But the Houthis are not the type to raise a white flag after a few bombings. As that report mentions, they'll often downplay their own losses and hype up their retaliatory strikes to maintain a morale boost for their supporters. Meanwhile, the U.S. is determined to let everyone know that it will not tolerate attacks on commercial or allied vessels. The question is whether this cycle of attacks and counterattacks can spin out of control. Because once bombs start dropping, it's like lighting a fuse that's connected to multiple powder kegs. Some in Yemen, some in Saudi Arabia, and some as far away as Israel or Iran. Speaking of bigger powder kegs, we can't ignore the looming presence of Iran. Tehran has made it clear it's not afraid to flex its own military muscles. If you're suspecting that Washington sees Iran's hand in every Houthi missile, you're on the right track. After all, the U.S. has repeatedly warned that it holds Iran responsible for what its proxies do. In turn, Iran says, these aren't our puppets. They act on their own. It's a blame game that could escalate quickly if cooler heads don't prevail. Now we come to one more riveting piece of coverage that shows just how far the Houthis claim to reach, and how they're putting that claim into action.
The missile forces, the drone air force, and the naval forces carried out a joint military operation targeting hostile warships in the Red Sea, primarily the American aircraft carrier Truman, which serves as a launching base for aggression against our country.
The Houthi missiles are also streaking across the skies of Israel. In a separate operation, Syria said that their drone air force targeted Israeli military targets in Tel Aviv in support of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip.
In solidarity with the oppressed Palestinian people in Gaza and in continuation of our support for them,
they're openly talking about hitting U.S. carriers and launching drone strikes into Israel. They're not shy about it, and that is absolutely rattling nerves in Washington and Tel Aviv. It's also a big reason the U.S. responded with such force in Yemen in the first place. The worry is that if the Houthis can strike major vessels and cities, how long before this spills over into a larger, more direct confrontation? It's that domino effect scenario. The U.S. feels compelled to retaliate, Iran steps up rhetoric, allied nations get dragged in, and suddenly you're teetering on the edge of a much wider regional conflict. So, where does all of this leave us? If this was a movie, we'd be approaching the climax, the part where the hero or villain makes a decisive move. Unfortunately, in real life, these decisions don't come with guaranteed happy endings. People on the ground in Yemen are facing dire circumstances. The Houthis are dug in, claiming solidarity with Gaza, while the U.S. insists it can't let these attacks slide. Iran looks on, flexing new missile capabilities, while cautioning that any blow against them will be met with a severe response. In other words, everyone's got a dog in this fight, and the stakes are sky high. The scary part is, there's no single neat solution. Diplomacy seems overshadowed by bombs, and as long as the bombs are flying, tensions remain at a fever pitch. But keep your eyes peeled. This story isn't over. If there's one thing you can count on in this region, it's that every day brings a new twist. Will we see an even bigger U.S. deployment? Will the Houthis push their luck further? Or will external mediators force both sides back to the table before things go nuclear? The only certainty is uncertainty. So stay tuned, stay curious, and keep asking questions. Because sometimes the scariest thing is realizing we might be just one missile away from the next explosion. Until next time, friends, stay safe, stay informed, and let's hope cooler heads prevail.